It is my great pleasure to welcome everyone who is tuned in today on behalf of the organizing committee to the second Australian Space Biology Symposium, or ASBS 2020. Thank you all for joining us today and for registering for hopefully what we believe some exciting days to come. I firstly want to extend our greatest gratitude to all of our speakers that have made the effort to join us both in live events as well as with pre-recordings, which I guess this year has taught us is really a good medium to bring our science and our work to life for others. This allows us to have a really fantastic event that spans the most challenging of all time zones, I want to say. I myself, I'm on the East Coast in Florida in the US, and I'm assuming most of you have tuned in all the way from Australia. And yet it gives us really the chance, this format here gives us the chance to interact and learn from each other. So thank you all to the speakers and all the registered participants for your time, your hard work. Without your science and contribution, this event obviously wouldn't exist, or would only have my video in it, so that would be kind of boring. We have, I believe, a fantastic variety of speakers this year, and Josh will share some of the details on this in a moment. I will take a super brief minute to tell you a little bit how he and I started to work together, and also how Mayo Clinic fits into this entire space world. So apparently since the 1950s, Mayo Clinic, back then only the Rochester, Minnesota campus, has been involved in space medicine and space research. Since then, multiple researchers have investigated any number of aspects that is involved in these areas, including astronaut health and biology. At the moment, all 3 Mayo Clinic campuses in the US have actually growing efforts in space medicine, and each of them actually has a different emphasis. The Rochester campus focuses on deep space health. Arizona, which houses the second campus, is focused on space tourism and LEO, and our campus here in Jacksonville, Florida, is focused on basic science. Our close proximity here in Florida to the Kennedy Space Center, which is only 2 hours south of here, and yes, I did watch the Crew 1 launch last night from the beach down the road. This proximity really is very unique and allows us to maintain our biological samples in our lab environment as long as we, as possible, and then literally just pack it up into the car and drive it down. So it's quite wonderful to have that. I myself am fortunate enough to work full-time in the area of space research, and Josh and I, we met last year via email, which has turned out to be a really great working relationship. We have, due to COVID, never met in person, but have been starting to work on a number of different projects, and now also in organizing this symposium together. Before I introduce Josh, I do want to give a big shout out to Henry Feng, who is part of Josh's lab, and without whom we would have not been able to pull all of this together. So thank you, Henry. Now, let me briefly introduce you to Dr. Joshua Chow. He received his bachelor in nanotechnology and his PhD from UTS. And he then spent in 2015 some time at Harvard Medical School for research, and then also at the Jackson Laboratory. Before he then returned back to UTS. And since then, being there, he's received a number of different awards and fellowships and grants, among them the UTS Postgraduate Award and Chancellor Postdoctoral Research Fellowship, the Australian Endeavour Kong Research Fellowship Award, multiple times the Rebecca L. Cooper Medical Foundation Research Grant, and has been funded by the Australian Research Council Discovery Project. He is an HCF Catalyst Accelerator finalist, and this year a Charlie Teo Fellow. So without further ado, I would like to give it away to your host today, Joshua Chow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. That's a very kind introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Joshua Chow. So let me just share my screen. Okay, hopefully everyone can see this. Yeah. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Australian Space Biology Symposium. And today, both myself and Christine will be hosting you and throughout the week as well. So just before we start, I'd like to thank our sponsors, the New South Wales government, the Office of the Chief Scientist and Engineer, and also CellLink for their support to make this conference possible. I will also like to again thank our organizing committee. This year we have a very multidisciplinary committee members, all the way from government agencies, research institutions, and from industry. And it is only because of that we're able to get such a great range of audience participating this year. I would like to also take the chance to go through some of the statistics of the people participating. Ironically, you can see from the speaker country of origin, while it is the Australian Space Biology Symposium, we actually have more US speakers than Australian. But you can also see that we're pretty well equally rounded in terms of the different fields that's coming to participate in today's conference from both academia, government, and industry. And I think it really reinforces the importance of the challenges with space biology, and in that we need to really get everyone, not only research, but everyone from industry and government to really address the challenges we face when it comes to space exploration. I'm also very happy and delighted to share with everyone that we have over 37 speakers, and while doing conferences online is not as the same as being in person, but it is only possible by online that we can have such a great range of speakers from all different countries from around the world. As of this morning, and there were also a few last-minute registered people, we have over 260 people registered and participate in this week's symposium. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And this week, it will be very, very exciting. One of the benefits of being the host is that I get to have the sneak peek of the presentation, and I'm really blown away by the caliber of the research that's happening around the world. And I'm confident that everyone will share my enthusiasm and passion for space exploration. So I'd just like to give a background as to why we started the Space Biology Symposium, and really it is to address our aspiration to go to Mars. And I'd like to give in my presentation that even if we have rockets to go to Mars tomorrow, it doesn't mean we will actually survive the trip, let alone survive on the planet. I mean, look at us, we've been surviving on the planet, on Earth for so long, and we're kind of doing quite well, but there are a lot of challenges. So really, the biology, the human aspect of this journey is a critical one. So I just like to put things into perspective before we start today. And a lot of our space biology related research is predominantly done on the International Space Station. And this is an inside look of the ISS, and you can see it is very limited in terms of space available for conducting research and even to live. So the technologies that is available, we need to develop to survive, conduct research for not only the ISS and beyond, is very critical. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done to be able to address these technological challenges. So I think one of the interesting things that when we talk about space biology really comes down to microgravity. And we've seen this type of picture quite often in movies and so on. And we've seen this astronaut floating in space, and this is the condition in which things look weightless. So, what are the effects of microgravity in terms of its effect on astronauts? So, one of the things we really need to put into perspective is that, the Earth, throughout human history and throughout the Earth has changed quite a lot, both in the environment, the landscape, temperature, or whatever. But the one thing that really hasn't changed is really the gravity. It has remained constant for 4.8 billion years of Earth's history. And so really life that are on Earth really have no genetic memory of responding to forces that are outside of gravity, really. So, when you suddenly put, life or, anything that's living into microgravity, it will actually reveal a lot of novel mechanisms into understanding its responses. And I like to tell people, if I suddenly put you in teleport you to Antarctica, your response is exactly that. It's a foreign environment in which how your body responds is really the kind of response we really want to study. So really just, kicks off, the area of space biology into not only are we trying to help enable space exploration, but through our new discoveries, we also can improve life here on Earth. And this is not only by technology, but also healthcare and medical needs as well. So really gravity shapes life on Earth and in space. And this is both at the cellular level, tissue, and organism level. And really, we do not have enough understanding of how this happens or why it happens. And normally we associate, microgravity to negative effect on the human body. And while long-term exposure does do that, there are also implications that short-term actually could have beneficial effects. And we're starting to see that through our research. So this table here really summarizes some of the medical challenges and environmental challenges associated with spaceflight. And you can see we're not short on challenges. So, we have to be able to understand before we're able to develop appropriate countermeasures so that we can go further and deeper into space. So obviously this, space biology research goes beyond just, the research aspect, and there are a lot of business opportunities as well. So I'd like to, give the analogy of, Amazon delivery. Amazon doesn't make its money by, developing or building delivery trucks. They actually make money by the services that they offer, and the delivery truck is just an aspect of it. So if you think about it in terms of context of space, we're doing pretty well in terms of rockets, and we can see the successful launch of SpaceX and a lot of other private companies. So in terms of delivering things into space, we're pretty well established in that area. So really right now it's about, what kind of services and what kind of new things can we get from doing things in manufacturing or fabrication in space that is really going to address a lot of the market opportunities. So given that background, hopefully, that put things into context as to why we're interested in space biology. And today I'm very excited and honored to be able to introduce our live speakers. The first one being Mr. Hanjie Wu. So he comes from UTS as well, and he's my student. So he will be sharing some of the work he's been doing for his PhD. Professor Boris Martinek. I've had the privilege of working with him, and he has an aspiration to be the first person on Mars. So that, I guess that's why he's joining our conference today, to see how he can be able to board that ship and to be able to survive it. And of course, Professor Anatoly Rosenfeld. He is a foremost expert in the areas of radiation. I work with him on the Australian Space Agency Space Life Science Committee. So we have really, really good, interesting talks today and also throughout the week as well. So before we kickstart the symposium, I'll just like to go through some of the housekeeping items. So later on, when we have the live session, the attendees feel free to submit your questions via the Q&A channels. Obviously, try not to put anything that's too inflammatory, or else we'll have to dismiss it. If the Q&A session after the speaker finishes early, then we'll have a quick break because we are trying to adhere according to our schedule. The presentations from the other categories or speakers, they will be available on our YouTube channel, and we have sent out a link for that. If you haven't received it, please contact us and we'll be more than happy to send you the link. So today's session will be the government agencies, and that will be available after our morning session at 12:45. And then for every other day, tomorrow and the following day, they'll be available at 11:15 in the morning, Sydney time. So in the presentations and then on the YouTube channel, you'll see two types. There will be one that says unlimited, versus 7 days. So the unlimited ones means that the video will be there for as long as YouTube is there. And the 7 days is just basically 7 days after the conference, which starting today. So this time next week, those presentations will be taken off. So if you want to prioritize your viewing, you can start with those ones. So we also have live session that will be hosted by Christine in the US on Wednesday and Thursday. And you can submit some questions to our email address if you would like to ask the host of those live sessions in the question that you would like answered. And finally, for our speakers today, I will give you a friendly reminder 3 minutes before your deadline. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to share with everyone that we are very delighted to be able to partner with Frontiers Journal in a special issue on space mechanobiology and medicine. And this will be, the abstract will be available January next year, and the submission won't be until May next year. So there's plenty of time to submit your exciting space biology research to the journal. And finally, thank you everyone. And so we're a bit early, but we'll get started. We're really privileged and honored to be able to have the Honorable Karen Andrews, who's the Minister for Science and Technology and Innovation here in Australia, to welcome everyone to the conference.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak at your symposium. One of my go-to sayings when I'm talking to people about space is, investing in space is investing here on Earth. It acknowledges that sometimes people find it difficult to appreciate why governments are spending large sums of money on space-related projects when there are so many pressing issues closer to home. But as you all know, there are so many flow-on benefits from our desire to go further than ever before. Whether it's GPS on our smartphones, better responding to bushfires, or helping our farmers, what we learn from space has huge benefits here at home. But what's perhaps not as obvious to people is the way in which space exploration has benefited human health. The Apollo era, for example, is still making a difference today. Kidney dialysis machines use a process created for NASA that helps remove toxic waste from used fluids. It eliminates the need for a continuous water supply and has provided greater freedom for patients. Australia is already a world leader when it comes to remote health, thanks to our work in Antarctica. That work has captured the attention of NASA and is one of the areas they're particularly interested in working with us on as part of our Moon to Mars commitment. The Morrison government is investing $150 million into Australian businesses and researchers so that they can reap the benefits of the efforts. It's money for Australians, not NASA. They've certainly got plenty. It will allow our businesses to enter supply chains that will create opportunities and jobs here at home. It's part of almost $700 million we're investing into the sector as part of our plan to triple its size by 2030, adding $12 billion annually to the economic growth and creating another 20,000 jobs. That doesn't include the $1.3 billion Modern Manufacturing Initiative, which will support projects in 6 national manufacturing priorities, of which space is one. Space is known as the final frontier, but we take a very practical approach and view it as a jobs frontier. This is an exciting new industry opportunity for Australia, where the sky isn't even a limit. All the very best with your symposium today.
Well, I'd like to thank again the Honorable Karen Andrews for her welcome message to the symposium. And next up, we have the Ingrid Marsh from New South Wales Treasury to give us a welcome message on behalf of New South Wales government.
Welcome to the second Australian Space Biology Symposium. My name is Ingrid Marsh and I'm the Director for Industry Development with New South Wales Treasury. Today I'm welcoming you from the Gadigal land of the Eora Nation, and I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people as the traditional custodians of this land and pay my respects to the elders both past and present. For thousands of years, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders have used the sun, moon and stars to predict changes in the season and to navigate long journeys across land, seas and waterways. For thousands of years, the sky has been home to a wealth of knowledge for those who are able to interpret and read the information it holds. Today, the sky is more accessible than ever before, and the information it holds will change the way we live forever. With that in mind, I'm delighted to welcome such a distinguished global audience to the Australian Space Biology Symposium, with an incredible lineup of speakers that have been assembled. A special thanks to Dr. Joshua Chow for organising this symposium and for the groundbreaking work he and his team do. With the global space sector forecast to reach over $1.1 trillion by 2040, and the Australian medtech sector already generating $6.1 billion each year, the New South Wales Government is committed to these sectors and is motivated to create the best environment conducive for their growth. Medical technology industry in New South Wales is the largest in Australia, and it creates high-skilled, high-paying jobs in New South Wales. Likewise, up to 75% of all space-related revenue generated in Australia comes from organisations headquartered in New South Wales. And it's exciting to see these two sectors that are such clear strengths for New South Wales coming together at this symposium. To focus our commitment in these sectors, the New South Wales Government launched a space industry development strategy in February this year and launched the medical technology strategy in 2018. The space strategy includes $5 million to establish a space industry hub at Tech Central, a pilot space qualification mission, and to establish a New South Wales node of the SmartSat Cooperative Research Centre. The National Space Industry Hub will create a focal point for industry, government, the research community, and education and training organisations to collaborate, innovate, and become more globally competitive. As part of the hub, the New South Wales Government has funded the establishment of a New South Wales node of the SmartSat Cooperative Research Centre, which will enhance collaboration between industry and researchers to create innovative space-enabled solutions to challenges across our economy. Finally, the Space Qualification Mission will support a cohort of space startups and SMEs by launching their technology into orbit through an 18-month qualification and commercialisation challenge. The New South Wales Government is also delivering a range of initiatives from the MedTech strategy, including the Medical Devices Fund, the Medical Research Support Program, and a range of other grants to support research and development, including the cell and gene therapy grants. The New South Wales Government, through New South Wales Health, recently announced $25 million to build an advanced viral vector manufacturing facility at the Westmead Health Precinct. This facility will give patients across Australia and the Asia Pacific access to groundbreaking trial therapies for genetic diseases, cancers, and viral infections. In support of workforce development for our local medtech and space sectors, our government is working with industry and educational institutions to upskill the workforce. The New South Wales Department of Health offers a range of scholarships and fellowships to support the development of talent and skills for the medtech industry. To those who are interested in taking advantage of the growth of these sectors in New South Wales, I'd like to bring your attention to the recently announced $250 million Jobs Plus program. The Jobs Plus program will support companies who want to relocate their head offices or expand their jobs footprint in New South Wales. The program includes payroll relief, assistance with the New South Wales planning system, and access to a one-stop shop concierge service. This is a clear signal to the private sector that New South Wales is open for business. Over the next few days, you'll hear from our best and brightest in the space and medtech sectors. I encourage you all to engage and seek opportunities to collaborate. Thank you again for the opportunity to open this fantastic event, and I look forward to hearing about its success. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you can see that there is still a lot of opportunities here in Australia and especially in New South Wales for collaboration and for business and market growth. So we're a little bit behind schedule, so I won't take too much